Hello there, my fellow men. I just want to tell you a quick story, and I'm sure it's after happening to many of you as well, and vice versa. I'm going to go back to November 2022, the 7th of November. Something that changed my life big time. I was sitting in my house and a knock came to the door. I answered the door and there was three coppers, three policemen at the door. Now this was 5 o'clock on a Monday evening on the 7th of November 22. Absolutely pissing down rain. Now I don't mean to bring you any sad or sob stories, but this has happened to a lot of fucking men. And I'm going to tell you how to get out of this situation, because it's going on for too long. Anyway, three coppers knocked the door, three policemen, Garda, we call them here in Ireland. And the first thing I thought was an accident, because my ex-woman and the kids are normally home about 4 o'clock, but there's still no sign of them. So this was 5 o'clock. Anyway, the woman Garda, we call them Ban Garda here in Ireland, handed me a piece of paper. She asked me my name, which I won't say on this. My name is Kenny, but I won't say my second name. And I said, yes, that's me. She said, you're up in court Thursday morning in Cashel. Now this was a Monday evening, remember. 5 o'clock. So I was practically up 2 days later in Cashel. And I looked at her and I said, what's this all about? Why am I up in court? What's happening? She said, I don't know. We were just told to come up here and hand you the summons. I was stunned. I looked at her. I actually said to the three of them, this is a prank. There's something going on. You know what I mean? This can't be real. I done nothing. I absolutely done fuck all. But she said, Kenny, you're up in court Thursday morning, 9 o'clock in Cashel. But then the punchline came in. She said, we can't leave the house without you. You have to come with us. And I started laughing. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't figure out what was going on. So anyway, I was up in a heap. Innocent man sitting down, drinking a cup of tea. And next he gets this knock on the door. So I said, are you actually serious? "You going to take me out of my own house?" She said yes. "We were told to bring up this piece of paper. It's a summons. But we can't leave the house without you." I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned, I swear to God. So I didn't know what to do. I was thinking. I got on the phone. I phoned a few family members to see would they take me in for the night until I find out what was happening. Because these three coppers, they would not leave the house. Once I left them inside the door, I fucked up. That was my mistake. But anyway, I grabbed my jacket. The phone calls that I had made were no good. I couldn't get through to half my family, and the other half said no. We can't put you up, we've no room. Now this is what family can do to you sometimes. And I have a very, very big family. So I grabbed my jacket, went out the door. It was the 7th of November, pitch dark, 5 o'clock, piss and rain. I said, "Can I get into the squad car?" That's what we call it here in Ireland. The police car. We call it a squad car. It was absolutely milling down. So anyway, I gets into the car. And as we were driving off, I'd nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go. So I said, "Can you do me a favour, please? Can you bring me into the Garda station for 20 minutes? And I try and find somewhere to stay. I can't live out in the rain. I can't stay out in that. I'm actually homeless. I've nowhere to go." So one of the male Gardas, the men Garda, said yes. "We will let you in for 10 or 15 minutes. So anyway, got down to the barracks, went into this little room. I started phoning everybody I knew. Friends, mates, everyone. Nobody had a couch, a sofa, anywhere to put me up for the night until I found out what was going on, because I hadn't a clue in the world what was happening. So I was sitting in the barracks in this little room, and that smart arse band Garda, the woman guard, kept coming in every 2 or 3 minutes. "Come on, are you ready? Come on, you have to go. You have to go now." I said, "I've nowhere to go." She said, "I don't care. You have to get out of here now." I'll never forget her name, Lisa Prendergast. Very, very fucking ignorant woman. And they're supposed to help you. The Garda. The Garda on Sheikhan. They're supposed to help you. But anyway, I kind of broke down a little. Most people would. I mean, come on. 1 minute you're sitting in your own house, drinking a mug of tea. Next minute you're out in the street, homeless. For nothing. You don't know what's going on. And they wouldn't tell me. They would just give orders to come up to the house, give me the piece of paper for Thursday morning and take me out of the house. So what? Think about it. This is probably after happening to a lot of ye. A lot of men out there. And you don't know what to do about it. You fall apart. I fell apart for a few minutes as I was sitting in that cop station. I had about 4% left on my phone. So something came into my head. I put a little advert, a post up on Facebook. I had about 3,000 friends on Facebook. And I said, people, anybody can help me, please. I'm in trouble here. I need somewhere to stay for the night. And just as I posted that on Facebook, the Vanguard came in again. The dirty bitch, Lisa Prendergast. She said, come on, out now. I said, out in the rain, out in that pouring rain. She said, yeah, out. We can't keep you here. I said, can you put me in a cell for the night? Lock me up in a cell like. She said, no. I said, why? She said, because you didn't do it. I said, why the fuck am I here if I didn't do it? It's God's truth. She said, we can't put you into a cell because you didn't do anything. This was starting to drive me fucking nuts. So anyway, I had nowhere to go. I was heading for the bridge in my little town. Put on my jacket. That's all I grabbed coming out of the house was my jacket. It was a work jacket, a fluorescent, one of them builder's jackets. And just as I got to the front door of the barracks, I heard a beep on my phone. It was a mate of mine. Now, not a very close mate. A fella, a bloke I knew with years. But we weren't close. We just knew each other. And he texted on Messenger. He said, Kenny, ring me straight away and come over. And that was like winning the lottery, because I had absolutely fucking nowhere to go. Nowhere. If I went out in that piss and rain for the night and I went to that bridge, I wouldn't have been there the next morning. Simple as that. And this is what happens to fellas. This is what happens to men with very poisonous women. Poisonous relationships. When they want to get rid of you, they are always believed and you are the scumbag. But anyway, I went across to my mate's little flat. Davy is his name. I told him what was after happening. And he said, Kenny, I've been watching your posts on Facebook with the last 3 or 4 months and you seem to be in a lot of trouble. you're not in a lot of trouble, but you seem to need help, to put it that way. So I told him what was after happening. Now at this time, back in November 2022, it was the second woman I was ever with in my life. And we had a 7-year-old kid together. I have 4 grown-up kids from a different woman, going back to the 90s. But anyway, the next day I started haunting the council, the local council, telling them I was homeless. I'd nowhere to go. And I was getting buses up and down, Waterford, Clonmel, everywhere, to meet all these housing people for 2 weeks. And all they were telling me was pure bullshit. Yes, Kenny, we'll have a place for you shortly. We have a place lined up. We'll have you in a nice flat, an apartment, as they called it, within days. It was a load of bollocks. They had nowhere for me. They were just fobbing me off to get me out of the office. So anyway, to cut a long story short, I spent 5 months with that bloke. Now fair play to him, he didn't have to take me in. Could you just imagine this for 1 second? Right, go back to that night, the 7th November 22, 5 o'clock, pissing out of heavens. I sent that message with 3% left on my phone, 3% battery. And in about 25 seconds, when I got from that room to the front door, this man was sitting at home in his flat, Davy. He doesn't really use Facebook, but he was sitting at home in his flat, having his few smokes, and for some reason out of the blue, he decided to pick his phone up off the table. And the first thing, he's into TikTok and all this shit. The first thing he done was press Facebook. And what was the first thing came up? My post that I was after posting, saying that I was looking for help. Think about it, people. What's the odds with that? So it was meant to happen. But anyway, spent 5 months with him. I was supposed to spend 2 weeks with him first. This is what the council told me. 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks. 4 weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 5 months. And what was absolutely killing me was my 7-year-old son. I did not know for that 5 months, from November till March 23, that she was after taking out a barn order. She was after sending 3 pages of lies to a judge to get that man out of the house. He's violent. He's drinking every day. He's threatening my kids. I did not know this for 5 months. Because after that 5 months, in March 23, I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't walk across the main street where I was living. I was in fear that I was going to bump into my 7-year-old. And what was I going to say to him? What was I going to say to him? That he woke up the next morning on the 8th of November and I wasn't in bed. What does she tell him? Where am I gone? See, this is all playing in your head. So that's when I hit the drink heavy. I hit the drink very heavy, 7 nights a week. But anyway, March came, 7th of March 23. I said, I can't take this anymore. I was broke, I was skint, I was homeless. The bloke that was after taking me in was up in a heap because he was in rented accommodation of a private landlord and he was breaking his contract by having me there. So he was panicking big time. So I decided to apply for legal aid. Now, I don't know, the most of you know what legal aid is. It means the government pays for your solicitor so you can go to court. So I said, fuck this. After 5 months, I'm going to bring her to court and find out exactly what's after happening. Because just after it happened, I wasn't in the right state of mind. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know where to go. I just fell into a hole. Now I know for a fact there's thousands and thousands of men out there that's after been through this. Same thing. And some of them just give up. And I'll admit it, and I'm not saying it in a sad way, I'm not making this an I'll cry out video or something like that, but it did come into my head a few times to give up. But I just kept going. I came from a good family and I have strong blood. I kept going. So at the end of March 2023, I brought her back to court. But I was the bad guy. Now this might be a little confusing, right? I was taken out of the house on the 7th of November 22. I was up in court practically 2 days later on the 10th of November. So I showed up in court. One of my other sons drove me up to Cashel. And I was just in such a state after being taken out of my own house. I walked into the court that morning at 9 o'clock, Thursday morning, 10th of November 2022. And like an absolute fool, I didn't even know what it meant. I pleaded no contest. I just want to get in and out because I'm not used to courts. I wanted to get in and out as fast as I could. But I did not realise that pleading no contest, I was actually agreeing to everything that she had written. All the lies she had written about me. I was agreeing to it. So as far as the judge was concerned, I was admitting to everything. I was a drunk, I was an alcoholic, I was tearing the house asunder, frightening the kids, beating her up. So it was only when I hired the solicitor in March 23, 5 months later, and I said I want to bring my ex back to court to find out what all this was about, because I hadn't a clue. And I said, I want you to do me a favour, I said to her, as a woman, solicitor. And I said, I want you to do me a favour. Would you please find out what actually happened? Why was I taken out of my house? What did I do? Because I'm sitting here with the last 5 months. My head is fried. I have a 7-year-old son. And I done nothing. I don't know why I was taken out of my house, my own house. This is what they fucking do to you by women. When they have enough of you, you're gone. They can make up stories and they are believed. So I took her back to court the end of March 23. But because I was after pleading no contest back in November 22, I was the bad guy. So the judge ordered, first he turned around and said, "You've an awful cheek to stand in front of me here today and ask for a retrial." I said, "Your Honour, I don't know what's after happening." I said, "I showed up in court on the 10th of November 22. I pleaded no contest. My head was wrecked. I was up in a heap. I was homeless. I didn't know what was going on. I said, I need a chance to prove myself." So the judge turned around and he said, "Kenny, there's 2 things you're going to have to do." Now this was a very bad judge. He was very, very mean. Especially with drunk drivers or drugs or anything like that. But this day I must have met him on a good day. He turned around and said, "Kenny, there's 2 things you're going to have to do." He said, "Number 1, you're going to have to go off and do a full anger management course." And I didn't know what that was, an anger management course. He said, "Number 2, you're going to have to go and do a parenting course. And I didn't want to be smart. I said, Your Honour, what's a parenting course? I'm a parent. I'm after raising 5 kids. He said, those are the 2 things that you have to go and do. Bang, court adjourned. So I went outside the door, spoke to my solicitor, and I asked her, what is a parenting course and what is an anger management course? She said, Kenny, on the 10th of March 2022 in Cashel Courthouse, you pleaded no contest, which meant you admitted that you're an angry man and you admitted to everything that she said you done. And you're going to have to get these 2 courses done. Or you'll never see your kid again. So I went home, straight away got on the phone. My sister actually gave me a couple of numbers, fair play to her, of these courses. She gave me a couple of phone numbers. So the first one I phoned up was the anger management course, which was a 32-week course, 32 weeks. But there was an 8-month waiting list. Now I was back up in court in 4 months, right? I think it was July 23. So I didn't know what to do. I phoned back my solicitor and I said, the anger management course, there's an 8-month waiting list. What am I going to do? She said, you'll just have to wait and we'll keep adjourning it. Or there's another way around it, she said, is take private anger management courses, which are going to cost you up to €100 a week. Now I was on social welfare payments at the time, getting €200 a week. So that would have been half of my payments gone. I would have had nothing to live on. But still, I was willing to do it. Anything to see my 7-year-old son. But the bottom line is, with the anger management, they're all a load of fucking con men. I phoned up 3 different numbers. After the first one, they said there was 8 months waiting list. I phoned up 3 more numbers after that. And one of them wanted £100 cash for 10 minutes every week. Can you imagine that? €100 cash for 10 minutes. And it was 20 mile away, which I had to get the bus. So I said, no, that's wrong. You're a fucking robber. So anyway, look, to cut it all short, I ended up waiting the 8 months for the anger management course. I done the parenting course with a company called Bernardo's, which are fucking absolutely brilliant. And the first week I went up there to Clonmel, I didn't know what I was up there for. I didn't know what a parenting course was for. But they taught me things. They taught me things I never knew. Here in Ireland, if you and your ex or your partner, your fucking wife, whatever it is, actually get into an argument and you raise your voice and shout at each other, and there's a child listening or a child in the next room, you're in trouble. I can't think of the name they put in it. But anyway, I done the 8 weeks parenting course and it taught me a lot. Now I was after given 28 years, raising 5 kids. 4 with my first ex and 1 with this one. But I was starting to get little hints of the people that I knew, that knew her. See, she didn't know that I was bringing her back to court. But when she found out, she was after getting little bits of information of people. And when she found out that I was reopening the case, she fucking panicked. Because she was an absolute psychopath. A psychopath. About 2 months before that happened, back in the 7th of November 2022, we had an argument one night. I had an uncle home from England that was dying, and all my family was down in a pub in my town. And my phone was ringing all day, family ringing. Kenny, come down for an hour. Uncle Tommy is going home tomorrow. He's very sick. You might never see him again. So this went on for about 4 hours. And in the end I said, fuck it, I'm going to go down and see the poor man, because I know him well. He's going back to England tomorrow, back to London. So I got dressed. And as I was getting dressed, she said, what are you doing? This is the same ex now I'm on about. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going down to the pub for 1 or 2 pints to see my uncle, Tommy, before he goes back to England. He's very, very sick and they might never be home again. She said, no, you're not. I looked at her. I said, what? She said, no, you're not. You're not going near a pub. I said, are you fucking serious? You're standing there and telling me that I can't go down to the pub where all my family are. About 20 of them together. Seeing this man for the last time. You're telling me I can't go down to that pub to see my uncle? She said, yeah. Who the fuck do you think you are? I said. So I got dressed. This is God's truth and my 5 kids' life. I got dressed, walked out the front door. The pub was only probably 400 yards away. And as I walked out the garden, and down through the house in the States, I could hear a car I was after buying her. I could hear the car reversing out of the driveway. So I kind of looked behind me. I knew she was following me. So she followed me down to the house in the States with my son. She rolled down the passenger window and started screaming out the window. The whole neighbourhood listened to her. She said, "You're not going to the pub." I said, "Go home." "I am." It went on and on for about 10 minutes. And as I got to the end of the estate, where you cross a bridge over to the town centre, she said, "If you go across that bridge, you'll never see your son again." I said, "What are you on about?" She said, "I'm going to drive straight into the river." True as God, she was a fucking looper. Now, whether she would have done it or not, I don't know. But it fucking frightened me. It frightened me. Because I knew she was nuts. I knew she was fucking... The first year we met, we were absolutely stuck together. We loved each other. And then things started to change. But anyway, I turned around and went back up to the house. I couldn't believe what she was after saying to me. But that's just one incident of what she done. She done hundreds of more. As my kid grew up and he became 5, 6 and 7, and me and her got into little arguments, she often said to the kid, "He's not your father." Think of that. Think of a woman saying that to your son or your daughter out of pure anger and temper, that he's not your daddy. That's going to stick in the child's head forever. But anyway, look, I'm after bringing it on now too long. The court went on for 17 months. I've done all the courses. And I got clever and clever and cleverer. And then I wrote a letter to the judge just before the last court case on the 7th of July 2024. That's only 18 months ago. And I told the judge the mistake I made. And I'm telling you this story because don't make the same mistake. If you're an innocent man, do not walk into a courthouse and plead no contest. Because I didn't know what I meant at the time. But I fucking do now. So I wrote the judge a letter. The final court case came up the 7th of July 2024. I showed up with my solicitor. She showed up with her solicitor. And some sort of a special fucking social worker or something that was on her side giving her advice. And my solicitor was after telling me, she said, "Kenny, the things you told me about what she done, don't mention them to the judge. Because I think we have this case. The barn order is going to be dropped. And you're going to get to see your son." So I thought we'd just go into the court everything settled and come out of the court. But next I was called up on the stand and I was asked a load of questions by the judge and by her solicitor. And then she was called up on the stand. And then I was called up again. This went on for an hour, about 3 hours. And I could just see in the judge, I could see something in the judge. He was a different man to the first day, and the second day, and the third day. I think I appeared 5 times within those 17 months. 5 times. Because all the courses wasn't finished. But I could see something in him that day that kind of swung my way. He did not want to know whatever she was saying. He was just listening to me. But I couldn't. There was one stage I was up on the stand and I just couldn't hold it in. I swear to God, I could not hold it in. I said, Your Honour, look, I'm with that woman with 8 years. I said, the torture I've been through, whatever letter she wrote you back in 2022, it's the other way around. She is the one that was the fucking psycho. I didn't swear. She's the one who was the psycho. She was the one that was wrecking the house. She was wrecking the kids' heads. 7 days a week. I didn't call her Jekyll and Hyde. What did I call her? Yeah, I said to the judge straight up, the woman is schizophrenic. Definitely, 100% schizo. I said she could be standing there 1 minute, Your Honour, thumping the face off you, shouting and screaming. And 10 minutes after, she'd be out in the kitchen, putting her arms around you, saying she was sorry. Now I hope you watch this video this far, because this goes on in probably every second household in the world. And people don't know what to do. They just give up, end up on the streets, or fucking jump in the river, whatever. They don't know how to handle it. But I turned around that day and I said to the judge, I said, Your Honour, that woman suffers from schizophrenia. I said, I can name out 100 things, I said, but I'm not going to. I'll tell you one thing, Your Honour, that she said to me one day. She didn't say it to me, she said to my son. He was 7 years old, and she turned around out of pure temper and told that child that I was not his father. Now, I said, Your Honour, this is where the children part comes in. What do you think is in that child's head? And will be stuck in his head. After I raising him for 7 years, and she turns around and tells that poor child that I'm not his father. And I was mad to go on. I was mad to tell him the story about the day she followed me down to the bridge and threatened to drive into the river, but I couldn't. My solicitor was kind of looking at me. I probably could have got her locked away for the lies she told. I could have got her in shit, deep trouble. But I said no. I said in my own head, no. You have your little boy back now. Be happy with that. So, on the 7th of July 2024, all charges were dropped. I had my 7-year-old son back in my life again. And that was that. End of story. And now I'm sitting here today, actually just coming up 2 years ago, after being homeless. I'm sitting here today in my very, very own 2-bedroom house, with no one shouting and fucking roaring in my ear 7 days a week. I have full access to my son. Everything was dropped. I'm just telling you this. Never give up. If you're innocent, never give up. Keep fighting. Do not take the easy way out and go on drinking drugs. I went on the drink. I never done drugs. It's a little bit of advice, people. Men. I'm talking to men. It's a little bit of advice that you don't know, but it might help you out. Don't just lie down and take it up the ass. Get up and fight. Fight for what you believe in. That's all I'm going to say till my next video. Thanks for listening.